minutes or whatever.
Well, I don't believe that. Uh, actually, like I don't actually believe that like they're even able to like monitor that. It's almost like you'd need a quantum computer to monitor a quantum computer and to confirm any of that data. And as far as I'm concerned, they could just both lie. Yeah, but they could just both you could just lie about that. I think it's a bit. It might be a bit overblown. Nah, I'm just being an asshole.
It sounds a little, it sounds a little outlandish. But what about this? What if it computes so much and so fast that like it's outside of the scope of like human comprehension? What if it's like way better than we even thought, and we can't even like articulate it?
Yeah, and that's where my skepticism comes from, right? Is that I think that maybe they did do it, but like there's no interface. It seems to me that can keep up with that. Like there needs to be some kind of intermediary between those two things.
Yeah,
Also,
like not even the human brain can interface with that thought. Sorry, I'm just bringing in my idea of like Eldritch horror into the current technological landscape.
well, that's what I mean. Is it it you what you were saying earlier was that technology is approaching magic, and I think it was kind of always magic to a certain extent. But now
Yeah,
we're where we've gone into is the realm of superstition, which is where me and quantum computing have a disagreement.
yeah. Well, see, for me, like for it to be magic, it has to almost be like in a way unexplainable.
Yeah,
Whereas like the beginnings of it, it's like that there's like these little parts. This is a resistor, this is a this, and it turns the bridge on or off, and there's ones and zeros. Like you can explain that. But the harder and more convoluted it gets, you know, then the less you'll be able, like the regular person would be able to explain what's going on, and they just like, I don't know how they do it anymore. They just do it. It just knows what I'm thinking before I think it.
yeah, that's what I mean. Is that's why I'm in the realm of like computers are now like in the realm of superstition. Like who the fuck knows
Yeah,
what they can do now? Like
yeah, yeah,
you
for
can
sure.
teach anyone.
Because that's one of the claims they made is like it can potentially predict like your actions based off like your past actions. Like it can know what you want before you even know that you want it.
I agree with some of that. However, their models are so fucked up, and I think this most recent election proved that. Because it's like all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't figure the fuck out that Trump was legitimately popular. like like all those big
Well, I
tech
think that was
people.
sort of lying as well.
Yeah, well, I'm saying all those
I
big.
think that,
Yeah,
oh,
they
yeah, go
might.
ahead.
A lot of that was like cover up, but it just it seems like there's too many people who were legitimately surprised by this. like, like
Yeah,
even though they saw it happen before, like this is a remake, bro. We're already doing a remake
yeah, yeah.
of a previous presidency. It's the reboot of Trump, right? Like
Yeah, I think it's because
you have criminal
no, no, no.
allegations, and he's like, I know you are, but what am I? you know, and it's the same fucking story 4 years
Yeah,
later.
yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it's because like there are a lot of loud voices that are like against it and everything like that, but it's like a few voices that are like really really loud, or at least not as much as the other side. So you might have like 24-30% people that are just like incredibly loud, while the other you know what 70% are just doing their thing without making a big deal about it.
Um, I don't know. I don't know how those numbers break up, man. They really tricked us into a very stupid system. Like just tribalism. Like we were very successfully divided and conquered. And the people in charge though are not competent enough, thankfully, to either capitalize on that properly or get us out of that, fix it, or make it, in any way functional. Because
Yo, I was talking like this tribalism thing you're saying. I was talking to a friend of mine, female, right, and she was saying, stuff about like the pay wage gap and stuff. I don't know, like it might be. I haven't done any real research on it, but my intellect tells me that if they could pay women what like 50 cents on the dollar to every man, like the workforce would be predominantly women because they could just pay them less.
I mean, I think that might be part of DEI, bro.
Well, her rebuttal to that was, yeah, that's funny. Her rebuttal to that was that they hate women. Like, who are you? Like, 'cause her and her friends, like, they really think that, like, the majority of men in America hate women. And, like, I mean, even all the men I know is, like, a very small portion of people in America. So, I mean, I guess it's anecdotal. But I just don't see men hating women. Like every once in a while, I see like a curmudgeon somewhere talking smack, or like at a bar, they just drunk with them. But that's not like the majority of people. It's like a couple of guys here and there that are probably like sociopaths as well, or some kind of like neurodivergent. Or they
Yeah.
got fucked over enough.
Well, I think there's that the tribalism extends that far, because right, there are people who just buy into that. So a lot of women seem to buy into some of that. Like, even though their dad
Right?
their dad probably loves them, they've had healthy relationships before, but and most of their interactions with men are positive, but they've been told, that yeah, men just hate you, and there's like this competition thing, and men can't, like, what was that stupid Jennifer Lawrence thing, like men can't identify with like a female protagonist, and that's why she falsely claimed to be like the first female action star. And it was like,
That was
honey,
crazy.
yeah, well, that was years ago, and she's since caught so much shit for it that she's like, all right, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I was wrong. That was a stupid thing to say. I didn't go to school when I was a
Yeah.
kid. I dropped out when in middle school. But yeah. Anyway, but what I'm saying is, on the other side, there's also like men, like your Andrew Tates of the world, who sort of do believe that things should be a certain way, and that like the incels, right? So there's these guys that I sort of think that they should just be handed women, and that they shouldn't really have to try. Like, they should just be able to go outside and expressing.
Yeah, but those guys can't be normal. Those guys have to be neurodivergent because that's not normal thinking.
Well, that's what I mean. Is I think that they've, in their tribalism, they've made a lot of us neurodivergent. That's like what RFK has been talking about, and Trump is, because they're trying to really downplay, science in general has been trying to downplay like the prevalence of neurodivergence. They're just saying, like, before it was everywhere before, there's no increase now, it's just that we're more aware of it, right? We're more aware that autism and AS people exist, right? So that's their claim as to why it is seemingly increased.
Okay.
Right? But in reality, there weren't, like, in my own family, there just weren't that many people. Like, people were having more kids, like, in previous generations, and now just a higher percentage of them seem to be like straight up non-verbal autistic, learning disabled to an extreme degree, depending on like what time. And this is like everyone that's born, post 2010 or something like that. There's like it is accelerating. And so
Jesus Christ.
There's like, the question is, like, what has changed? What has been introduced to the environment? One of the things you can point out to is the vaccine schedule. Like, do you remember back in middle school getting like a hepatitis B vaccine or C or whatever. Yeah, I remember we did that, and I was like, why are we doing this shit in school?
Yeah.
Like, this it feels like something I should do at my next doctor's appointment. Be like, nope, new vaccine, so we're just rolling it out. Here you go.
Yeah, I remember like Jim Carrey and not Paul McCartney, Jenny McCarthy were really big on this, like like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah.
They had that that interview like what happened in 1989, where all of a sudden you're adding 30 different vaccines to the schedule here. And like they were just implying that it was just like big pharma, just like chill, like making us do this just so they can make money and like making it seem like it was like this important thing.
Yeah, well, the thing is, since I think it was either Nixon or Reagan, like just made it so that it's much easier to get an approval for a vaccine, right? You don't have to go through the same testing and waiting periods and all that stuff that you would for like a regular medication. So, like, if you just kept coming out with these vaccines,
You force people to take them.
you'd be making money. Yeah, well, that was the thing. So you get the doctors on board and be like, isn't it good that this vaccine prevents whatever? Now, the vaccines themselves aren't really always like that dangerous, but some of the preservatives that they put in them, like they've put like mercury in them for fucking some reason. I'm sure there's just other chemicals and heavy metals and shit that it was like, whose idea was it to put this in there? But I think that's really where it is. Not necessarily the vaccines, but all the other additives that they're just like these stressors. And that's why I don't want to raise my child in the US or anywhere. Like, I want to raise her on street food. And like,
well, that's dangerous too. You don't know what the fuck they're putting in there.
yeah,
Just these horror videos.
I know, me too.
But you can't escape it. It's like even in America, there are places where for a long time people were drinking fucking lead. So
Ancient
and I'm
Rome.
sure it hasn't completely stopped. I'm sure there are still kids eating lead paint chips to this day somewhere in America.
Yeah.
Being exposed to like terrible like asbestos and all this other stuff, and probably worse.
I don't wonder if they ever even came out with like a law saying that all paint needs to be unleaded. Remember leaded gas and unleaded gas?
Yeah, I think we still use leaded paint for certain things, but don't quote me on that because I can't remember why I know that. So it could be just a lot.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've heard that they do still use it somewhere for something.
I mean, you probably make good tortillas out of it, tortilla chips.
Oh god. Yeah. Oh man. They do still have like weird additives to food, like fucking what was one of the things I heard, like the same chemical that's in like antifreeze, like some foaming agent, like they said like some bread like Blimpies or what's the other one? Subway. Like they put some weird chemicals in there to make the bread fluffy and nice, but it's like not good for you.
Yeah,
like the same stuff they use for foam foam insulation or something.
Ugh. Cold is awful. Chemical being removed from Subway bread. It's called Hold on a sec.
Yeah, I think it's like foam insulation.
Hold on. Azodicarbonamide. Yeah.
See, so it's still happening to this day. Like, there's still a bunch of stuff in our food that's like having effects on our bodies that we most likely don't want.
Well, it's. I think a lot of it's just like it's cheaper to keep it on the shelf, right? So like that's
Like it's not edible.
yeah. Well, who cares, right? It's just profit. As long as no one's able to sue, like if you can just bribe the FDA to make it be like,
Yeah,
well, that's the thing is we end up when we sue people, like we end up like if the FDA gets sued, we're just suing ourselves, right? Like
yeah,
Nestle
yeah. I mean,
approves things, and if the FDA approves it, and it's unhealthy, the FDA then has to like prove that the company knew this was unhealthy and hid it from the FDA. And so a way that you have insurance is you just do that up front. You bribe whoever's in the FDA, and it's like, well, you knew all these things were there. They put the side effects right on the box. They put all that stuff there. And it's in the studies, but the FDA doesn't like promote any of this. Like warning, it's not like with cigarettes. They don't say warning, azote bicarbonate might cause birth defects or something. Uh, Allegedly, I don't know if it actually does that, so I don't want to get in trouble by saying that online. But
I do think that we can agree that like insulation foam, like no one should be eating it though, right?
yeah, definitely not. No matter how delicious it looks, it's like those paint chips, bro.
Yeah.
I was always so tempted to eat them. Right? Even now, there's flaking paint on the wall, and like I want to peel it for one thing,
And also watering.
right? And I want to just put it right in my mouth, and I never
Yeah.
did, and I know this because my brothers did. My brothers had to get shots because
Oh shit! Wow.
they ate they got lead poisoning from eating the paint chips.
Oh my god. What's it called? So, like, whenever you go to a museum and you see like a fucking ancient fucking Leonardo da Vinci, your mouth starts watering. You're like, oh my god, those paint chips are so old. They must taste delicious.
Vintage, bro. I bet. Like I'm imagining it's like salty, like a better version of you ever eat
Oh,
have you ever eat Play-Doh? Like a better version of that.
yeah,
Like the Mona Lisa
yeah,
face.
exactly.
The Mona Lisa's face tastes better, probably like a better version of Play-Doh. It's like And
That's great.
I never ate the paint chips. I did eat. I ate
They're
crayons
sweet.
and I
That's
ate
why they
paste.
ate them.
Are they, I guess yeah, and that's is that a bug or a feature? Like we're gonna paint all
Yeah,
these projects buildings in the Bronx in
with a
lead paint.
poison.
Well, you know about
Yeah, I
the
think like ancient brands used to use lead as a sweetener.
ugh nice. Well, the leaded gas back in the day that gave like so many people
Yeah.
asthma, right?
Uh huh.
So the only reason why that exists is because like some guy owned a lead company, and lead is useful in making it sure that like gasoline doesn't cause like knocking inside of engines,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
When you get like sludge buildup, it makes sure that there's no real sludge buildup. I guess it sweetens the gas
Yeah.
too. Um,
Yeah, lead it makes it sweet.
but yeah, but ethanol also just does the same thing, and we produce a lot of corn, and that's just a corn byproduct that people probably had to like throw away before, you
Yeah.
know.
You know, I'm thinking like all of the worst stuff, all the poisonous stuff is like actually tastes kind of sweet. Like I remember one of my buddies when I was a mechanic, he would tell me that like when he was a kid, he used to like dip his finger inside of the antifreeze and kind of lick his fingers because it tasted sweet.
Hmm.
And it already looks like Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so like, lead paint chips taste sweet. So imagine you have like a confection store with like paint chips and antifreeze and all the worst stuff that like oddly tastes good.
yeah.
I hope no kids ever listen to this because I feel like we're sending them down the wrong path.
Well, I hope they do because they're either gonna learn or they're gonna just be taken out of the gene pool early. Um, wouldn't it be funny if that's like the rationale of putting all these disgusting chemicals in food is like, it sweetens it up, makes it taste better.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like if they sell that to the it's like,
Thanks.
is it a bug or a feature? It's like, oh man, you ever wonder why American food
Yeah,
is so damn addictive? It's,
yeah, it's because it's got all this antifreeze in it. I was watching a show called like I forget the exact name of the show, but it was like how the Victorians were like killing themselves or poisoning themselves. And I think we talked about before, like they would put like a lot of their green color comes from arsenic, and it's like it's just straight up poison. So, but also it was a popular color because it's like it was fashionable and it like showed that you were like rich and shit. And it was around the time where we started having like living rooms and living spaces where people would go into and like have a den or whatever. And so they deck it out in all this arsenic green, and people started thinking that like the place was haunted because they'd go into this room and start feeling ill, and when they leave the room they'd feel better, but it was because they were poisoning themselves. But they also would add things to the food, like the bakers would cheat the system because they can put like non-edible things like wood shavings and plaster inside of the bread, and it would feel heavier and denser, so they could charge a little bit more. And they were, the flour was more expensive, so they were saving flour, but they were
put a,
poisoning people.
put a
And
little
it's
bit
like
of
we
concrete in
never
there.
stopped. Yeah, it's like we never stopped doing that. Like we were doing it to this day. It's crazy.
Yeah, and well, from an economic standpoint, that is unsustainable. Like, you're just gonna you're gonna run into a wall somewhere where it just has to collapse, and we're there right now, buddy. Like,
Yeah,
there's
but it's
two
going
ways.
on for hundreds of years at this point.
Well, there's two ways that capitalism like works, where you can make growth, right? You can increase profit, which you can do by, say, increasing your price or increasing production or something like that, or
Yeah,
cutting costs. And when you have the entire market, which like our food market is completely captured, right? It's just the same people make all the food, you know, a couple of
yeah.
companies that are owned by each other, and they own stock in the other companies. If they don't, it's just a monopoly, right?
And I
uh
think most people don't care as long as they're not poisoning us, right? But they're like taking all this power so that they can just do whatever they want and like not care about the people that are eating it. Because they're like, oh well, then they'll just reap off the pharmaceuticals, so they're just gonna get sick and pay us again.
yeah, I think that people don't care even though they are poisoning us, because the America is just so full of chronic illness that it's like a fucking nightmare. Food is illegal in other countries. Some of these, like, and that's the thing, is they've proven that they can make money selling their stuff abroad, right? Without all the additives, without the cost. Because I see it over here. It's got different ingredients, you know.
Yeah,
Uh, but people in America, like, you talk to them and they're like, I like that. Yeah, I like that flavor. It's like, I mean, I hope you're not are you giving this to your kids? Would you give your kids like fucking brain damage on purpose because you're a cynic?
basically. Yeah, so bad.
That's
Holy
crazy.
shit. Um,
It's a country without a future.
um, yeah, I wouldn't say without a future, but this is definitely something that needs to change for sure.
Well, it's a fatalistic philosophy. I'll retract my previous statement. It's a fatalistic philosophy where you're just it's like, oh well, that's just the way it is, so you can accept it. That's your only option, is to just accept things as they are, and keep going about with your day. And I feel like that's a trap, and they've trapped you. It's like that rat maze where you just have to focus on making enough money to keep your head above water or cut costs.
It won't be like that forever. I agree with you. That's how it is right now, for sure. And it's been like that for a long time. But
Yeah.
I do think that there's going to come a point in time where people are just going to be like, dude, it's done. We're done. We're not doing this anymore. And it's going to be um, I like to think that it won't be some sort of like violent thing, but my intuition tells me that it will be some sort of like weird like civil war.
That might be an inevitable thing. Historically, I do not want that to happen. I'd rather
Yeah,
like
anyone.
I'd rather just a bunch of hackers just like I don't know, just emptied like everyone in Power's bank account and shut down like all the infrastructure and then took it over and democratized it.
It
Like
does have to be something like I'm going to use the word violent, but I don't mean necessarily like blood and guts and fighting, because that is like a very strong violent thing. If like let's say the hackers shut down all the computers and like that's that's like a violent reaction in my mind.
it's a use of force for
But
sure.
yeah, um, but what was I gonna say? Yeah, so I have a friend. I have a couple of friends, right, that like were like addicted to like substances in the past, and like they were kind of like moseying through life, kind of like getting high or whatever. But then one day they decided, like, dude, this is it. I can't do this. And I've tried to quit before the soft way, just like slowly easing myself out. That doesn't work. And what worked for them was that they had to like make it this like huge deal. Like one of my friends was not that big of a deal. Like he was quitting cigarettes, and like he had to break. He had to buy a bunch of cigarettes and like snap them and flush them down the toilet. And like anytime he told all of his friends, like if they saw him with a cigarette, they had to like grab the box and like snap all of the cigarettes and like and that's what worked for him, right? It had to be this extreme thing. And then another friend who was like doing heroin, and his thing was that he had the same thing. Like he had all of his friends and family like lock him in a room. They're like, "Listen, feed me, but like don't listen to anything I'm saying. I'm gonna probably say the worst stuff, but just don't let me out of this room." And he was in there for like a month or something like that. And that's how he. And I think that's what America through is kind of like there has to be some extreme like thing to stop the withdrawals from like convenience that we have.
Yeah. Well, I think we're doing that a bit. Like I have also recently quit vaping and cigarettes because that was coming back into my life. It was hard, and I did the breaking cigarettes thing, right? Like, cause I'd buy a pack,
Oh, really?
yeah, and I'd smoke some of it, and then like there was, the first time I did it, like I bought a pack and I smoked some of it because my girl was off with her family, and I was like, I'm by myself, I can just be a dickhead, and, you know, go back to my bad habits. So I bought a pack and I'm smoking,
Yeah.
and I just threw that one away. And then later on that night, I went and bought another pack. And this time, like, she saw it, she's like, "Oh no, you cannot." And I felt so bad. So I just went and I just
Yeah.
broke all those cigarettes. However, I did fish a lot of those out of the trash and smoke them as halves.
It's oh damn. See, you have to flush them.
Yeah, it was bad, man. It was
Yeah, yeah.
pathetic. It was absolutely pathetic. But I'm doing better. Trying to get my shit together.
I was. That sounds like when you hit a low point where you're digging things out of the garbage to consume them.
Yeah, it was pathetic. Like I said it to myself, like I was
Yeah.
saying to myself while it was happening, it's like you are fucking weak.
Yeah.
You are pathetic. What use are you to anyone? You deserve nothing. And God is judging you.
I mean, he is judging me though.
Yeah, yeah. But I was, using that as a threat. But so far I've been pretty good. I've had a few lapses. Like we took a vacation, we went up in the mountains, and like the first day we were there, man, that was like going on those one-lane roads in a car that, like they're really sort of designed just for like dirt bikes and shit. I mean, they're concrete and cars are on them,
Yeah.
but you really have to be like polite with oncoming traffic. It was crazy. It was crazy stressful. Like sometimes you're just on the edge of a cliff, just looking down
Holy shit.
at a valley, and I just
Well,
have to remember.
make sure you're the one hugging the side of the mountain, not on the outside.
you don't have any choice, man.
Oh shit.
Left hand side. It's whatever side you're on. So sometimes you're on the outside, sometimes you're on the end. Because
No.
this country is everywhere is crowded pretty much, man. I mean, I thought going up to the mountains it would be like more rural, but there was traffic up there too. It was
Damn.
it was not that rural. I mean, it was a little bit more rural, but man, it was just like everywhere you went, man. Somebody lives there. These people are
Yeah.
the Indonesians are fucking industrious, bro. Like I was looking at
Yeah.
all those terraced farms, and I was like, man, naturally grown food on like every bit of available
I
fucking
love it.
soil. And it's great. This volcanic
And
soil is great.
beautiful.
But back to what you're saying
Yeah.
about withdrawing from like the system. I feel like we're already doing that with like boycotts, but where we run into a problem is boycotting food, right? Like we're boycotting like a lot of things successfully, like Disney, and it's not even a boycott. It's just that they've created so much crap that it's people just don't care anymore. We're just like we're somehow
Yeah.
weaponizing apathy.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
Like,
and it's like I have a duality, right? Like I'm a little torn between it because like I know a lot of this stuff is bad with like the food and the chemicals and like all the plastic and clothing and in our utensils and our everything that we use has like BPA's and PPDs and all the other like acronyms or whatever that are really like forever chemicals and they're bad for you. And we have microplastics in our semen and in our blood and in babies who already has it and are really problems. But at the same time, without those things, like we wouldn't be nearly as advanced as we are. Like people probably, like more people would be starving, more people would be dying of exposure because they don't have clothing and stuff like that. So like, I'm
yeah,
not saying that all this technology isn't doing any good, but also like, could we afford to them, or is there a way to regulate it better, or
well, they just gotta
like
fix. They
my
gotta fix
preference
it.
is to have,
What happened?
yeah, like, but my preference would like ideally would be to have like nothing but natural fibers in my clothes. Like I don't want any plastic in it at all. I want wool, cotton, hemp, or any natural plant fibers or animal fibers. But is that even doable for like the majority of like even America by itself? In food, like, can we have like food that doesn't have like these terrible chemicals in it, or is it just impossible because it doesn't last long or long enough for our needs? But at the same time, we waste a lot of stuff too, right? We produce way more than we need, and then a bunch of food just gets thrown away every year.
That's true, and we also eat probably more than we really need to. Um,
Yeah,
but so you just need these big portions that half the time you have to just throw away. Um, Again, yeah, it's a double-edged sword. We just need to fix it. It's not like impossible, but you just need to actually put in the work. And that's the problem is that is not there's no financial incentive to fix problems at all, right? Uh, for instance, America, despite the fact that like Europe has high-speed rail and everyone has high-speed rail, America's still got like roughly the same rail system that we had like 50 years ago. Right?
yeah,
It's just like
sure, right?
stale. It's stagnant, and like investing money into it, someone would just have to do that, right? And it might increase usage if we had high speed rail, because that's another option other than flying, which might be better.
Yeah,
Like it's easier for you to put like a bullet train on the electrical grid than it probably is like a jet engine. Right?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
And it might be easy for them to put like a fusion engine in the front of a bullet train than it would in a fucking jet. But they don't because they're at the stage where they just need to cut costs. They're at the stage in the fall of Rome where we're just minting the gold content of the coins is just getting less and less. you know
Yeah,
so it's just like
yeah.
it's a
It doesn't
downward
make sense.
spiral.
But I mean, also, like, I will admit that I don't know a lot about these systems that I'm talking about. You know, I'm just taking the layman approach. Like, this is just what I see based off in my thoughts, based off of like just common sense and experience.
And nothing
Like,
wrong
I've
with that.
never delved into. Yeah, yeah. I'm not knowledgeable on a lot of these things.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Everyone should like speak on this regardless, because you might just have a piece, even if you had like a 0.1% piece thought that no one's thought of before. uh that's infinitely valuable, right? We are like we are a gigantic supercomputer. That's why those quantum computers, and AI is based on our thought patterns, because we literally think outside the box. That's what humans do. uh like who the fuck thought of, hey man, instead of living in caves or just outside, why don't we stack rocks? Like
We can
it
make
sounds
things anywhere.
it sounds like a very obvious idea. You might see like a beaver building a dam and you think maybe I could do that, right? But
Yeah.
someone how many people like said that very obvious idea and everyone looked at them like they were fucking crazy? Like, what do you mean? The fucking
I'm sure it
herds.
happens.
While you're talking about
You know,
stacking rocks, the herds are walking over there, man. They're getting further and further away. We gotta find this game. The berries over here, they're gone. We gotta wait until they come back next season. How many people
yeah.
just got rejected from just trying to stack rocks for shelter?
You know how heavy rocks are, bro? You can't stack those things.
Until
Yeah, but
until
if I create a lever, what the hell's a lever? What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Until like one guy was like, "All right, well, I'm gonna make a fucking instead of stacking rocks to make a cave, I'm gonna just make a tent that we could carry with us." How are you gonna do that, genius? Mammoth skin. Oh,
And a bunch of snakes.
and sticks and tusks and bones.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
Fucking
so
creativity is the thing that separated us from the animals for sure.
yeah, just like the fact that we started like trying to fix problems. Like problems became like part of our prosperity. And when you're a society that doesn't do that anymore, like the only problem that they're trying to fix is keeping a few people in power, keeping the status quo the way it is. And by status quo, I mean, just making sure that these rich people are in control of things. You're doomed. That's what I meant about like a doomed society. It's a downward spiral,
Yeah.
because the only people who have the ability really to implement any of these solutions, or at least give the power to someone who might have like a creative idea, they have no interest or financial incentive to do that. They're too stupid and incompetent to realize that they should, right?
Yeah.
And so they're just not going to. And we're the most powerful country in the world, and a lot of other countries like follow our lead. So our entire species is literally having like a population collapse, right? Like we had the pinnacle of technology and ingenuity and all that stuff happening, like Fallout. Like
Yeah.
we had that golden age where it was so fucking miraculous. People were like, it's got to be aliens. We stole alien technology, right? And then we hit the information age, and it was just like we looked at all this data, and all this data told us you just got to increase profit and decrease costs, and that was what our life.
Oh yeah.
That's what the entire, like, we're the most successful country in the history of ever. You should never question us. It became like a religion. Money became a religion after Nixon, and then when Reagan came in. Yeah, and then
Oh, sorry.
Clinton. It was just another religion. And since people think that that's the only thing you need to worry about, you don't need to solve problems. It might doom our entire species, right? We need to
Yeah.
we 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 literally need to find a solution to war, and we almost did, which was just trade and prosperity, right? We could go to war with China. We don't. They have nukes. It would be a bad idea. Everyone knows it would be a bad idea. But sooner or later, someone is gonna be in charge who's too stupid to realize that it would be a bad idea, right? Or who
Yeah, I
doesn't
think
care.
the best solution to war would be like what was it Gundam G Gundam did. It was like it's almost like the Olympics. Like every nation, every country has their fighter, and like they call you out if they wanted something. It's like we get this if we win, and it's just like a one-on-one fight.
Um, yeah, but you're just gonna run into people who
Almost like a
say
gentleman's.
you cheated. Yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, well
right.
everyone would agree to it.
Yeah,
Another thing was like I think we should just abolish the massive weapons, even guns. Like you're only allowed to use swords because there's no collateral damage with swords. I mean there is, but like it's just way less. Like you
yeah,
could kill people that don't deserve to die with a sword, but you can spray a whole clip right just like into the ether, just hit a bunch of random people with a gun. You can't really do that with a sword. You have to like run to each person and like actually do something.
yeah, and there's still a low chance that they will die compared to like a bullet wound, like just shredding your internal organs.
Yeah,
You know,
I think war should be fought with swords and shields.
that would be awesome. Um, but there's just too many people who wouldn't. Like they're just not going to. Also,
Yeah.
you know what explored that even better was Dune, right? They had this idea of I think it's Kansi or Candy or something, Kandi, where you
Mhm.
just
Okay.
you have secret wars, right? And since everyone's wearing a shield, they have like these personal body shields. You just can't even use guns because it'll just bounce off the shield. But a slow knife will pass through. So there's just this emphasis on hand to hand combat. Um,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Something like that. That's what we should do.
but at the same time, it's just like in a world where people have nukes, it depends on how willing people are to adhere to those rules. And we're at a point where we had like the Geneva Convention, but the people who were enforcing that, namely the United States government, just violated it, man. Like
Oh, jeez.
like since World War II, we have just been nonstop, just like funding every kind of war, every proxy war. Like we did not have to get involved in Vietnam at all, and for the money we spent, we lost, right? There was nothing gained there. Uh,
Yeah.
right? They still ended up the North Vietnamese still ended up taking over the whole country, and we didn't learn anything. Like the French did like all sorts of stupid shit, and we did the exact same shit when we came in there, right? We learned
Yeah.
nothing
We're terrible.
about how to fight these people. It was just like well it was like we're at war by default. It's just what we do. It's like part of the schedule. Like you go for breakfast at a certain time, you take a shower at a certain time. It's just like, yeah, we just go to war. It's when the occasion arises, like a fucking holiday or something.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. Yeah.
So,
I don't understand how the world works, man.
well, we're living in the since we set the standard, we're living in like the world that is developed, where like essentially no one really wants to fight us, so they find ways. You fund a terrorist organization. You don't send an army because then the U.S. can retaliate. So you fund a proxy war. You put a proxy in there, and that's also a trick that we did many times.
Yeah. Yeah. Can be a fantasy novel
Yeah,
with all the espionage. Like almost unreal, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I am writing a fantasy novel about it. Yeah, because the gods control the money, so they are the one who funds like the proxy wars, and they just attack anyone who disagrees with them, anyone who
Yeah.
tries to not give their tribute. They have to be dealt with. So the gods are trapped, though. They're trapped in the Holy Land of Erewhon, and they have proxies. They just fund proxies, and they use financial trickery, like they fuck with the banks to make sure that technology stays firmly fucking in the medieval age.
Yeah, they're gonna be doing that to us soon, man.
They
They're
already
gonna
did.
charge us, I think.
I don't know. They already do. They charge us for everything.
Yeah,
That's the other thing. It's just like the inflated cost of everything. You used to be able to buy something. Now it's like you have to have it. You have to rent everything. You have to have a subscription.
yep.
You can't buy a program or a game. You're leasing a game. When Steam went on that bullshit, I was very upset.
Yeah, what's the old term? It's like you will own nothing and you will be happy or something like that.
It's
Like
not that
all
old.
companies used to.
Yeah,
You know?
that's Klaus Schwab, man. And yeah, you will own nothing and be happy. It was like a prophecy.
Yeah,
And ain't nobody that
it's
happy.
true.
The bread is
You
poisonous
know
and
what?
the circus is boring. The mob
Yeah,
is coming. The mob is coming. All the
we're in
Luigi
the rat race.
Mangiaronis are coming.
Yeah, we're hunting all the Diddies and all the CEOs.
Diddy's a sacrifice, right? He's a distraction. Like a lot of those things. All this
He's
all
like
this.
the key. If
I Go ahead.
I was thinking he's the key. If he's like has all this dirt on a bunch of people, if they could get him to spill some beans, it's like a domino effect, right? That's at least that's what I was hoping.
Well, they don't want the people who have him being the government. They don't want him to spill beans.
Yeah, they're not on our side.
Well, they do. They want him to spill like beans if he was withholding those beans. Like if Diddy wasn't already a federal asset, um,
Yeah.
then they want whatever dirt he has, and they're just not. It's like the Epstein thing. They're not gonna come out and say like what information they have. They're gonna use it to blackmail people who are powerful, because that's what you do with that.
They're gonna use it for the same reason Diddy has that information.
Yeah, and so the only real way to deal with that is to remove those people from power. All those compromised people who, like, when Bibi
How do you fuck
Netanyahu
them out?
got that all those standing ovations, and how like publicly subservient Donald Trump is to this man, like a bitch, man. I mean, he's like BB can go to Donald Trump's house, fuck his wife, and like Donald Trump is lucky if he's allowed to watch. He's just like a clown. Um, the how public they were with that, it's just like, man, Epstein was really good at his job, right? Like I understand, like yeah, a lot of it is just that Israel is a good place to launder money from, right? We send them aid and they send us back campaign donations. It's legal, right?
Yeah, and
Uh,
you've got a little what do you call that? Like a gift horse. You gotta
yeah.
take care of it, right?
Yeah. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is, they also, if you disagree with anything they're doing, you know, they reserve the right to fucking honeypot
Cut
you.
your ass off.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I think they also like honeypot you, or just straight up kill you. Because I don't know,
Which is true.
it's not just that, man. Like, there's all these like whistleblowers, like the Boeing whistleblower. He's dead. I think there was an OpenAI whistleblower or somebody. Like all these people are just like coming out saying, "Hey, this company is doing this illegal thing or this amoral thing," and then self-terminating. I mean, or
Mm.
there's a lot of that going on around lately, and that's just kind of why I'm glad I'm very far away